Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fireside chat hosted by the Women's Initiative Network, WIN, as part of the International Women's Day celebration. Let me take this opportunity to wish all of you beautiful and empowered women a happy Women's Day. The purpose of this International Women's Day is generally to uphold women's achievements, recognize their challenges, and focus greater attention on women's rights and gender equality. And it is celebrated worldwide with a theme every year. And this year, the theme has been on embracing equity. The aim of this theme is to get the world talking about why equal opportunities are not just enough. People start from different places and from and have different start points. So true inclusion and belonging requires equitable action from each one of us. It's not just something that we talk about, something we write about, but it is something that we all need to think about, value it, and embrace it. It is what we all should believe in unconditionally, and hence equity means creating an inclusive world. How do we do it? We can all challenge gender stereotypes, call out discrimination, draw attention to bias, and seek out inclusion. Collective activism is what drives the change. From grassroots action to wide-scale momentum, we can all embrace equity. Forging gender equity isn't limited only to women solely fighting the good fight. Allies are incredibly important for this change to happen. And today, I take this opportunity to nudge each one of you to forge that harmony and unity, support the difference, and most importantly, create an inclusive environment for every employee to thrive. Let us take the first step to create a workplace which embraces equity, thereby embracing equality. On that note, let me introduce the panelists for today. We have with us Kyla Starks, Senior Vice President, Customer Success with Movate. Of course, she is our own internal speaker that we have with us today. Kyla has over 25 years of experience in the CX industry and is Kaizen Six Sigma certified. She has worked with clients such as Amazon, Apple, Goodyear, Louis Vuitton, Samsung, and many more. In her most recent engagements, she grew the current clients by over 400% in 3 years and provided the same client with new growth opportunities. Kyla took one client from 3 lines of business to 8, including new geos. She has experience in building a mature client success organization, managing more than 35 clients. She is a seasoned leader with strength in developing high-functioning teams. She follows a measured, data-driven approach to address client opportunities. Her passions include travel, food, and wine. She also indulges in reading and sailing and is a member of Go Arts, a local charity providing opportunities for school children to visit Fort Lauderdale's premier art museum. So thank you for accepting to speak to our audience, Kyla, and welcome you. Next up, we have Bhuvaneswari Nagarajan, also known as Bhuvi, and her preferred pronouns are they and she. She identifies as a non-binary individual. She has been riding since she was 6 years old and has been interstate traveling and off-road motorcycling for the past 10 years. As an LGBTQIA+ advocate and educator, she raises awareness about the community and the challenges its members face in order to live their own lives. She practices jiu-jitsu and utilizes it as a form of self-defense and therapy for mental health. She has been with the SSDE team at Movate for 3.8 years, collaborating on several internal projects with a variety of BUs and regions. She has conducted numerous cross-cultural training sessions and is a CEFR certified communication expert. Bhuvi, thank you so much, and we are truly looking forward to hearing from you today.
Thank you, Punita.
And our last speaker for today is someone whom I have personally known since she completed her 12th grade. She's currently working as a software engineer with Capgemini for close to 2 years. She's one strong-willed, optimistic, and positive personality who takes every obstacle and challenge in her stride to push it away with a smile and absolute confidence. Thilaga, I'm super happy and proud to introduce you to Movate. Welcome, Kyla.
Thank you.
So with that introductions of our speakers done, let me first begin with Kyla. Kyla, can you share with us your journey in the corporate world, especially to become a woman leader?
I sure will, and thank you for inviting me today. This is definitely an honor to be speaking with this group, and certainly with the number of rising leaders that are on the meeting today. I took some time this morning to jot down what my journey was, and I don't know that honestly it's any different than a lot of you that are here with us today. Whether you're starting your journey, you're midway through your journey, or you're towards the end of your journey and looking forward to retirement. But as you'd mentioned, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I started really when I was in college, and worked through that time period of my life. Like most of you and most of us, I started on the phones. It's funny when I talk to other people in the industry that their story always starts with, well, I started on the phones. And worked my way through leadership from there. And I'll have to say my career journey is really in two parts. And the first part wasn't as directed and wasn't as guided. It was opportunistic in that I had opportunities presented to me and then I took them. The second part was definitely more focused. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about the two different sections of my career. As I mentioned, I followed a traditional path: phones, supervisor, manager, director. And while I was a director, I was actually on the client side of the house. So my first part of my career was on the client side. And I learned a lot about culture and a lot about just leadership and how important it is for us to give back to the people that we work with. There was a lot of travel that was involved. Of course, we took our business from being an internal center into an outsourced center. So I became the partner, the BPO leader that partnered with our vendors as well as our internal partners. So I was on the road a lot, which was fine when I was younger, in my early 30s, and just married. And then I had kids. Not only did I have kids, but I had twins. So I had children at the same time, two of them, right in the middle of my career. So as I mentioned, I had been a director for a couple of years. I had the children, and it shifted things for me. For the first 2 years of their lives, I continued the travel. My schedule was definitely interesting in that I would spend 3 weeks in the Philippines. I would spend a week at home, a week in Texas, where we had another site, a week at home, and then 3 weeks in the Philippines. And I did that for 2 years. It was challenging. I was blessed enough to have help. My mother-in-law would come out when I was gone for extended period of times, or my mom would come out. They'd take turns, which meant that it now means, honestly, that my husband is the favorite between the two of them. I think my mom would give me up before she gave him up. But when my kids turned 2, I was sitting at their birthday party, and I realized, I've missed it. I've missed these couple of years. So I decided to take a sabbatical, and this is really where my career shifted from one that was opportunistic to one that was a little more strategic. And in my sabbatical, I had decided I was going to bake bread, and I was going to raise chickens so we could have our own eggs, and blog. This tells you it was about 15 years ago, or no, 13 years ago, I guess. So that's when blogs were really big, before podcasts were a thing. Tells you how old I am. But it turns out that I am not good at baking at all. And chickens scare the mess out of me. So I didn't do either of those things. And most importantly, I found for myself that I'm a better person when I'm working. I'm not meant to be that stay-at-home mom. I'm not meant to be a stay-at-home wife. I needed to have my own identity. But I also wanted to be careful in how I did it. I didn't want to go back to that travel all the time and never home for my kids. So I started with the work-at-home journey at that point. So I've been in a situation where I've been able to work from home for the last 12, 13 years. And one of our competitors, actually, Arise, was where I landed first. I had initially started out by looking at them going, you know what, maybe just something part-time, just to earn a little bit of money and to give me something for myself so I don't feel bad when I want to buy something frivolous or whatever that might be. And I found out that they were actually located in my backyard. So I thought, well, I'll see what kind of leadership position they might have available. And I have discovered this also about myself. I have a hard time doing anything halfway. So while I thought, well, maybe I'll just go in and be a manager. I can clock in, I can clock out, it'll be fine. That doesn't work for me. I jumped in with both feet, and the next thing I knew, I was not working part-time. I was full-time and working with some of the best brands in the industry. Tremendous invaluable engagement for me. And it again gave me opportunity to work both client success, which was something new, because remember, I've gone from being a client to now working client success, but also operations. So that's the role where I feel like it gave me an opportunity to see both sides and understand what that looks like. And here's now where, as a woman, I started to notice around me that I was one of few in the room. Whether it was a room with clients or if it was even our internal rooms, when I looked around, very often there weren't any other faces like mine, which I definitely understand. For all of us, we have various examples of that. But it made me recognize and realize, number one, how important it was for me to have a mentor, which I've been very blessed that I adopted a mentor while I was at Arise, and he's been my mentor since, but also empowering women. I actually have a sign behind me and it says, empowered women empower women. And so I didn't want to be so lonely anymore. And I made a focus of ensuring that I was opening myself up for any kind of mentorship or coaching and whatever else might be. And I do have a rule that if you've ever worked with me or for me and you leave the organization, you're not leaving me, you're just leaving the organization. So it's important to keep in touch with those and help create success around the careers of others. But from Arise, I discovered, you know what, I want to focus on the client success side of the house. And that's when I went to another organization where I was able to lead the client success team and work with, again, a lot of other great brands. And that's where we built our team. We were able to take a client who I would say wasn't as profitable as we needed to be, but such a large chunk of our business, we were able to strategically wean them down and add new clients and grow them to the point to where we were healthier as an organization. And because of that success, and that was also a stateside position where there wasn't a lot of travel, so I was able to be home for my kids. I was then able to go and move back in with Transcom, which is where I've been for the last few years before I came here. And in my journey there was very good. I started working with one of our major clients, and then quickly worked into the role of country manager, where I led the Latin America, United States, and then our Canadian teams. And that was really, I would say, where I found my why. There's not a lot of industries like ours. If you think about our industry and what we can do, we can come into a community and really change it. When we come in, we're not just talking about 20 jobs or 30 jobs when we come into a community. We're talking hundreds of jobs. And I look at it as my responsibility to protect those jobs, whether it's through excellent delivery, client relationships, or mentorship with others. So for my why, it is truly about empowering others and making sure that I'm providing opportunities for them to be their best selves. There's all sorts of things and trials and tribulations I could take you through on being a woman in this industry or being a woman in leadership. But the fact is you surround yourself with your tribe, and they help you, and you very quickly identify who that is and who that isn't. And you I guess it's like feedback, right? You take what you want from it, and then you shelve the rest of it for a later date. And that's really how I look at my journey and my experiences. I take the positive, duplicate them, replicate them, and pass them on. And I take the negatives and try to shelter and protect where I can. So unfortunately, I have to jump to another meeting, so I can't stay for the Q&A. But please email me if you have any questions, or if you'd even just like to chat and have a one-on-one later. I'd be thrilled to do so. And if there's one thing, though, as a piece of advice that I can offer everyone on this call, it's to really think about your word choices. You know, when I mentioned my mentor at Arise, the thing that he said to me was, you have to use strong words. And I saw Tarun on the call earlier. He's a part of my team, and I noticed he did that a few weeks ago. We were on a call and he said something. He said, well, I think, and then he stopped himself and he said, no, I know. And that's so valuable, right? So really think about your words. Use your power words. Make sure that you're not seeming uncertain. And then the last piece is stop apologizing. There's lots and lots of articles out there, and I'm terrible at it. If you look at half of my emails, they probably start with "I'm sorry." So this is something I'm actively working on. But it's not an "I'm sorry that I'm late," or it's thank you for being patient, right? So pivot and strategize. So that's one I'm actively working on, but it is brilliant. So I'm just so thrilled to be here, and I will watch the recording because I really want to hear the questions and hear the other panelists, but I do have to jump to another meeting.
Thank you, Kyla. Thank you so much. But what I liked the best was keep the positives and shelter and protect the negatives. That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure it was of help for a lot of youngsters who are here and looking to make a career, looking to grow into leadership roles. We look forward to probably having you for the entire session. Probably we'll have one more session exclusively with you. Thank you so much for joining. I understand you have another meeting to jump into. Thank you, Kyla. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so we have our next speaker, Bhuvi, and I'm sure, Bhuvi, it wouldn't have been an easy journey for you to not conform to the supposed standards set by the society, right? Now, with that, how have you gone through this entire life journey? If you could share with us your story and what each one of us here, and I think that's also something that we'd like to hear, how can each one of us here and what can we do to create a more inclusive world? So over to you, Bhuvi. I'd like to hear your story.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Punita, and everybody in the team who gave me this opportunity to speak to an entire crowd of people, almost 86 people. It took me a lot of time this morning to actually jot down a few points that I would want to discuss in this forum and what are the things that we could do in order to achieve. So to start off with, I would like to give a little introduction in terms of what I am or what we as a community are. So before I begin, it's a very general question I would like to ask anybody. Would anybody have an idea of what or who a non-binary person is?
You could put your responses in the chat if you know what the response to it.
Okay.
Is it okay if we speak out?
Sure. That'll be fine as well.
Okay. So I'm sorry, my name is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
So I have LGBTQ friends, and they are still learning because they are young, so they're still learning about, their sexuality. But for me, I've always felt like a non-binary person is a person that they don't necessarily conform to one sexuality. Not necessarily saying that most people who I see as non-binary, they always call themselves as what you would say like a free spirit. You wouldn't put them just with they kind of give me with the flow. They kind of give me whatever I'm feeling today, that's what I am. And that's 9 times out of 10, that's just what they want people to respect. And non-binary people comes in all shapes and sizes, and all of them are beautiful. So that's what I think non-binary is. So that's just my definition.
Sure. So just to give a little understanding to this is going to be, there is a lot of difference between gender orientation and sexual orientation. For example, a person who is male, female, or we say someone from a transgender community, or somebody who's non-binary, all these fall under our gender orientation. Whereas when we look at other things like being gay, being lesbian, or being a pansexual person, this all falls under your sexual orientation. So they're two very different things. So that is the first point that we are going to address. Now, the second thing, as Brianna was clearly mentioning, being non-binary generally means somebody who does not conform to the general structure or the general gender construct of either being male or female. Now, I recognize as a gender fluid person, so I can easily, some days if I want to be a man, I can be a man. Some days if I want to be a woman, I can be a woman. Now this comes with a lot of mental stress. This comes with a lot of physical dysphoria, which means to say, even for example, this morning when I woke up and I knew that I have to be addressing an entire crowd, I woke up with a lot of anxiety. I woke up with a lot of gender dysphoria. I woke up with a lot of body dysphoria, where I was not feeling that I belong in this body overall. So there are worse times when I would think about probably something like a hysterectomy, if the medical terms of it, where I would no more associate myself with being part of the female gender. Sometimes it changes where I say, hey, you know what? It really doesn't matter. I'm really comfortable with my body, but I'm not comfortable with somebody addressing me or behaving in a certain way just because of how my physical structure looks. Now, I came out to my friends in the year 2017. I came out to my family in the year 2019. It took me 2 years just to come out. Now, to start off with, in a country like ours, gender norms or gender forms are very important. It also becomes something important where gender is given a specific role, where they say, hey, you know what? Men are supposed to be like this. Women are supposed to be like this. And even when it comes to job roles, men can be better leaders. Women can be better leaders, but they are finicky leaders. There is a lot of construct, or there is a lot of ideologies that go behind gender per se, right? Now, this brings down to a point where several people, when they look at me, they do not know how they have to behave when it comes to behaving towards me. Should I treat this person as a man? Should I treat this person as a woman? But people tend to forget that I am a person. All that you have to do is treat me like a person. What my gender identity is and what my sexual identity is not going to make any difference, is not going to bring about any change in me being a lead or being a colleague or being a friend. I'm just still going to be the same person, because it's important for us to remember that everybody, irrespective of what gender is, their gender is to be a person. Now, I was also asked about how do your family deal with it? How do your family deals with you being a non-conforming gender fluid person? The answer to it very clear: they've still not accepted it. They've still not accepted it so much to a fact that the conversation of me being gender fluid or being non-binary is literally non-existential at home. It also comes down to a point where at times where I've heard statements where they say, hey, let's go to a doctor and get you checked. It's something that they don't understand, that those kind of things affect a person's mental state of mind. Now, although being non-binary, the word non-binary falls under the trans umbrella, there are a lot of people who are also agender. which means to say they completely say, I'm neither male nor female. There are people who go through a lot of physical transformations just so that their mental space can have that much of freedom to express themselves. We see a lot of people who are drag queens. Many people may not even know that there are people who are drag queens who perform, although male by form, they go ahead and they perform as females. So we have gender fluid people, we have non-gender people, we have agender people. The transsexual umbrella, the transgender umbrella opens out very vast. Now, I prefer the name Bhuvi, and I do not prefer somebody calling me ma'am. If somebody calls me sir, I'm okay with it. But being called ma'am, being addressed ma'am, or even to a fact being addressed my entire name, Bhuvaneswari, does not settle with me, because I do not recognize myself when somebody addresses me with that name. Yes, it's a beautiful name. It's a very traditional name. It's a very amazing name. It's a very Indian, but I cannot associate myself with that. Bhuvi is a very gender neutral name because by itself, it means heaven in Sanskrit. So it's a very gender neutral name. I have been working with Movate for 3.8 years, as Punita was mentioning. And in this period of 3.8 years, I have had an amazing boss. I have had an amazing boss's boss who've been very understanding of who I am. But they've also realized that me being gender fluid or me being non-binary does not affect my work in any way at all. So there are some things that do affect a person's mental state of mind. One thing would be not having allies or people not understanding what an allyship means. If somebody walks up to you and told you they were gay, they were lesbian, they were transgender, the first thing people tend to think is, okay, there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with us, we're just existing, right? And even when I first came out and said, hey, you know what, I'm non-binary, the first thing that I heard somebody tell me was, what are your seniors or what are your bosses going to think? How do you think your entire team is going to react to you? It really does not matter. Because in the end of the day, am I approachable at work? Am I somebody who will assist you when you need any kind of help? That is all there is to it. Now, few things that could help people in this organization or in any organization, as a matter of fact. The first thing would be building forums where we all can communicate, where we all can, if people do not have a knowledge about the LGBTQIA community, it's important to have forums which discuss points. It could be related to medical assistance, it could be in terms of mental assistance, it could be in terms of just being friends, just speaking out. There's a question that also comes up saying, hey, why are there pronouns? What are pronouns? Now, it's very important because if you say, okay, she is doing this, you know that you're addressing a female person, you know that very well. So when you use pronouns they, it's a question of just giving that amount of comfort and respect to a non-binary person or to a transgender person. So yes, grammatically, as I've always heard, grammatically they does not fall in a sentence for one single person, makes complete sense. But if this person does not identify as male or female, usage of pronouns like he and she would actually affect this person's state of mind. The second thing which we could probably do is having even as something as simple as our email addresses. I know that it is important for us to have our email, the name and the email address to be very precise. They say, hey, you have to have your complete name. But if there is somebody from the community does not want to identify with that particular name, create email addresses in that specific way, because if everybody else looks at the same email, they're going to continue addressing me as Bhuvaneswari. I cannot go correcting hundreds of people saying, hey, call me Bhuvi or address me as Bhuvi. Rather, having an email address by itself that says Bhuvanagarajan@movate.com would kind of help everybody know or address the person in a correct way. This is just giving a hypothetical situation and an example. Second thing is, if anybody has questions about how do I address this person, the best way to deal with that situation is ask the person, what do I address you as? What are your pronouns? That is the easiest way out when you're dealing with a person from the LGBTQIA community. Makes it easier. To sum up this whole thing, over the period of the last 5 years, over the period of learning who I am, because this by itself is a process, this by itself takes a lot of education, takes a lot of talking to a lot of people, in a lot of forums, with a lot of forums, I've understood the fact that just because somebody does not accept you for being non-binary, just because they don't accept you being transgender, is not going to stop you from being yourself. Acceptance is something that you have to give to yourself. And if you accept yourself, no matter what gender you belong to, no matter what sexual orientation you belong to, you end up accepting yourself, being happy with yourself, and continue to perform your regular day life like a regular human being, as a human being. So it's important for everybody to understand that we exist. We are not a hallucination. We do exist. It's important for us to also know that it's easy to argue saying that no, only male and female were created. But if you go into the history of humanity, transgender people have existed. And just because somebody comes and says, hey, you look different, or your physical appearance or your genitalia is different, and you thinking that you belong to another gender is incorrect, that's not being humane. That's just being ignorant of the fact that people exist. So I just want to sum this saying, if anybody has any questions about anybody in the community, you talk to somebody, you feel that they are not comfortable with a particular pronoun, with a particular name, or even with something as simple as addressing someone with a nickname, just ask them, and it would empower them. And when they educate you, you get to understand the existence of a lot of people and a lot of lifestyles and a lot of struggles that people go through. That's it from mine.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bhuvi. I think the last 10-15 minutes, all of us could not look this side, that side. We were completely focused on what you were saying. And it's not easy. And I know it. When we were talking last evening as well, you said, it's the first time that I'm going to talk to the Movate, crowd, and it's not very easy to talk about this. And salute you for opening up, sharing your story with us. And Bhuvi, I just want to make this commitment on behalf of Movate. Yes, you do exist. Yes, we respect you. Yes, we accept you, and we will always stand by you. And that's the commitment that I make on behalf of every Movater here. And thank you so much, Bhuvi. It is truly, truly inspirational for sharing your story and journey with us. And I hope we have had a lot of lessons to take back. And when you were saying that, I remember that when I was reading out your introduction, I said, she does this, she does that. And I'm so sorry about that. We will start making these small changes. And I think these small steps that we make will actually make the bigger change that we all want to see in our lives and see in the lives of all of us around us, right? So thank you so much, Bhuvi, once again for sharing with us.
Thank you.
So now let me move on to the one and only external speaker that we have today, Thilaga. she's a small town girl, and from a small town girl to a software engineer in a city. Your life has been through a lot of journey of courage, of resilience. So can I now request you to share your story of how you used education as a weapon to fight against child marriage, and how you have grown from that little girl that we know to this beautiful woman that you are today. Over to you, Tilaga.
Thank you, Punita. And first of all, I would like to thank Bhuvi. It's a great speech. It made me to think a lot. Thank you for giving your speech at this forum. And you all have, am I audible? Yes, you all have some certain qualifications for getting married, right? Everybody has. So, but in my village, the qualification for getting marriage is 8th standard. The moment a girl finishes 8th standard, invariably the groom will be ready and marriage is an automatic process. Then the same happened for me too, but I did not want this same. But my father, instead of 8th standard, my father gave me time till 10th standard. That is because I convinced my dad it will be very good to put SSLC in my marriage invitation card, so that he allowed me to continue my higher education from 8th to 10th. So after, it is not about my parents' mindset. Even if they allow me to educate me further, but my villagers would not allow. They would ask simple question like, what you are by educating a girl child. This was the situation in my village. So my parents allowed me because I visualized 2 different years at the same time. If I study well, what will happen in my life? If I don't study well, what would happen in my life? So, but I visualized, if I study well, I would visualize myself with working in air-conditioned office with laptop, etc. But if I don't study well, definitely I will be married off and sitting with the 2 goats in another hut in the same village. So I studied well. This visualization helped me to study well. I was doing great in my studies, so I became taluk rank holder. So after my dad realized, okay, she's studying well, so we can allow her to continue her higher education. And after, what happened is, my parents allowed me, but the groom side was not okay. So what I thought is, since I scored good marks in 12th too, so I plan to continue my higher studies, but due to financial conditions, you won't believe, but I did not have 500 rupees for applying engineering admission. So I thought I will compromise for arts and science course. But that also I can't afford that time. But it is my teacher Saraswati who helped me to get an admission at Matram Foundation. Matram team core member also here, Punita Anthony. So they helped me to continue my higher education. I have completed my BE Computer Science Engineering with the help of Matram Foundation. So I would thank them also. Now I from 8th standard girl to now I'm a software engineer. You all need my story. You all expect my story needs a fairy tale ending, right? So now I'm a software engineer at Capgemini. For the past 2 years, I used my education as a weapon to fight against child marriage. The things changed in my life is, in my village is, definitely education will change everyone's life. My education changed my life, not only my life, in my village too. village people are allowing their children to getting higher education, and people are telling my dad that your daughter is earning handsome salary and working in a top MNCs, so you need not be worried now. And I am the breadwinner of my family now. I'm taking care of them, and my dad got retired from all his responsibilities after getting my job. So I feel this is the proud. This is what I can giving back to my mother foundation and my parents too. And now I am supporting my children to education and guiding to get the same what I got. So life is not what we take it, it is about what we make it. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thilaga. Thank you so much. In fact, she missed sharing the story of her running away, jumping out of the house from the marriage and coming off to study. That's what she did. So like I said, I've known her from she's been a kid, and it's thank you so much. Truly inspirational, Thilaga, to kind of again not conform to what people in the village said, to get married and be those two goats in another hut in the same village, but to stand up against every one of them, to come outside, study, and be the trendsetter for a village. And today, the norms in the village has changed. No longer girl children get married after the 8th standard in her village today. Today, every one of them are sent for higher education, and that's the impact education has created, and that's the impact she has created in her village. So it's truly, truly inspirational. Thank you so much. So now I thought we leave the forum open for our participants to ask anything, to share their views or ask any questions. So if there's something that you'd like to know from Bhuvi and Thilaga, Kyla is not here at this point of time, but Bhuvi and Thilaga are there in case you have any questions to ask them. So over to you all.
If I could say something.
Yes, Bhuvi, please.
If anybody has any question, even if you feel that it is really silly and could I ask such a question? Would I be offending this person? Please don't have that mental block. Please do ask, because the more you ask, the more the education, the more your understanding, and more you would help other people. So even if you feel that it is absurd, go for it.
Okay, so there is a question on the chat, Maria Jose. I don't know who that is for, Maria, but it says, if there is an advice you will provide to women struggling with life, what will it be? Maria, is that for Bhuvi or is that for Thilaga? I'm assuming it's for Bhuvi, or for both of you. So if there's an advice you want to give to women struggling with life, what will that be?
Firstly, try and understand if the struggle is actually worth it. If you're struggling for yourself or if you're struggling for somebody else. And if you are struggling for somebody else, it's really not putting your effort into it. If you're struggling for yourself, then yes, you've got to make your paper boo-boo, and you've got to put your heart and soul into it and work towards it. But if it's a point where you feel that you're struggling or you're in a bad mental space because of somebody else, just leave. It's not very important. It's really not very important as to what the society thinks about you or what the society or how the society is going to react towards you. It really does not matter. You do not have to try and fit into that little box. They say, hey, these are the rules that you have to follow as a woman. And if you feel that those rules are hurting you mentally, physically, emotionally, if it's hurting you, it really doesn't matter, because the people, whoever is going to talk behind you, are not the people who are going to come to your aid. They're never the people who are going to come to your aid. So it's fine. If just analyze if you're struggling for yourself or if you're struggling for somebody else. If you're struggling for somebody else, make your own rules and live life that you are happy with and not doing something else that somebody wants you to do so that they will be happy.
Thank you, Bhuvi. Tilaga, if we could hear from you as well.
Yeah, if you are struggling, which means you are trying something new, right? You are not an ordinary one. So, yes. So, I'm not a very rich background. I'm not very. I'm a first graduate. I'm the first IT professional from my village. I was struggled a lot, but now every struggles shaped me in this. So you have to consider your struggles into a stepping stones. So we need to focus on what we want. So apart from that, everything we cannot consider it as a struggle. If I can, definitely you can.
That's a very different perspective. So if you're struggling, then you're somebody special. This is nice. Anybody else, guys?
Punita, can
unmute? Yes.
Can I ask a question to Bhuvi? This is Preeti here.
Yes, Preeti, please.
Hi, Bhuvi. First of all, I would like to appreciate you for the amazing speech that you gave. Though we belong to the same team, I also belong to the SSDE team. But this is the first time I'm listening to Bhuvi. I'm so excited about it. I've never heard her speak as such. So that was a lovely speech, Bhuvi. So my question to you is, so before that, I should say I'm thoroughly inspired after listening to you. So my question to you is, where do you draw your inspiration from? I mean, all of us go through dark days, dark times. So during those struggles, during those very bad days, where do you draw your inspiration from? Or even otherwise, generally, where do you get your inspiration from? Yeah.
Very simple inspiration is I'm alive, I am breathing. That's one of the major things that even if the world's drowning around me, even if everything is drowning around me, the first question I ask myself is, hey, did I get up? Did I look at the sun? If you're alive, that means you've got to strive. That is all there is to it. If you're alive, you have to strive. Now, sometimes it gets worse. Sometimes even getting myself off bed to work on a daily basis would sometimes becomes a challenge. That time, I do have a set of friends. I have a great support system in my life. And all I would do, there are times where I would spend probably 2 hours on a call with a friend. I would just tell them, hey, this is happening, this is going on, this is what my mental state is. And then that is when they make me realize how much they love me. And when I understand that those days when I don't accept myself, when I'm feeling when I'm rejecting my own mental state of mind, knowing the fact that other people accept that, knowing that they accept it and they still love me irrespective of what my mental state of mind is, inspires me to just get up, do my things that I have to do and just get along with my day. It's just people around me. It's the support system and it's the love and the acceptance that I get from the people around me. There are days where even I message my boss sometimes and say, hey, I'm not in a state of mind. I don't think I will be able to work. My boss really clearly says, okay, take a break, come back, sit, work. And that kind of inspires me to say, hey, you know what, everyone understands you and it's completely fine. It's completely fine to feel what you feel because in the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because everybody around you loves you and accepts you.
Awesome. I think there is a question on the chat. I'm just trying to put out. It says, has your mental health ever affected your work ethic? And that's for you, Bhuvi.
Work ethic? No. Because in the end of the day, work, when you're working. Like I could feel the worst sometimes, I could feel the best sometimes, but in the end of the day, when it comes to work and you come to work, you have a team that supports you. You have a team that you work with and they support you. You have higher ups that support you. Work ethics per se does not affect at all, because it really, like, again, it really doesn't matter what's happening inside my clothes. It really doesn't matter, like, what's happening inside my clothes. My physical structure is whatever issues my mind is causing, it's all because of my physical structure. And that cannot come in the way of me helping my team or getting helped by my team. And so, no, I mean, I just push myself, and I just stand in front of the mirror sometimes, just go self-affirmation. Like, you can get through the day. You can get through the day. You've gone through so much. You can get through the day. And it really doesn't affect work ethics per se, because my entire team of everybody I work with, even my seniors, my bosses, my seniors, everybody really do not treat me differently because I'm non-binary. And I think many of my teammates right now have actually, like today, have figured out that I belong to the LGBTQIA plus community. And I don't think that has come in the way of them behaving with me, taking assistance from me, or giving me assistance any differently. So, no.
Thank you, Bhuvi. Maybe we'll take one last question if there is any, to either Thilaga or Bhuvi. All right. So 3 different life stories, 3 different perspectives, and 3 different inspirations for all of us. When we at Team Win were curating this fireside chat, we were very clear that we wanted a diverse panel and diverse topics to be covered, and I'm sure this definitely did that. Now, may I request Win core team member Kanta Samtani, Director of Sales, to propose the formal vote of thanks before we close for the day. Kanta, over to you.
Absolutely. I would like to thank Kyla first. I was very inspired by her journey. She spoke about, how to focus, how it was very, very common that, initially when we start our careers, we just go with the flow. And then one day we have to sit and focus what we really want to do and what makes us happy. So I really thank Kyla for sharing her journey. Bhuvi, oh my God, thank you so much for not only sharing your journey, but educating us, right? You spoke about so many misconceptions that people might have. And, I am based out in Canada, where the LGBTIQIA plus community is very strong, and they talk very openly about it, and they really support. I see a flag of pride outside schools, right? So, and there's a lot of awareness from the ground root level where they're telling people and teaching kids in school. And I still, learned so much from this session because I don't have anybody in my community who talks about it. So learning about it was so helpful, and kudos to you. You are so strong. Just be the way you are. And, Preeti asked a question: when you are down or when you feel low, what will be your inspiration? Thilagavathy and you are going to be my inspiration when I have a low day, right? So you guys have gone through so much. It's amazing, Bhuvi. Thank you so much. And Thilagavathy, oh my God, like I also come from India. I didn't know there are villages where you have to get married at the age of, 14. I mean, that's so unfair, right? Kudos to you again. You have set a trend. You're a trendsetter. All those girls who have studied after you in that village, I'm sure you're an inspiration to them, and you're an inspiration to us. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, and congratulations on everything you've achieved in your journey, Thilaga. That's was very, very, very inspirational, and I'm sure some other families and will benefit after they hear you. It's so amazing that you are the breadwinner, and your father has retired and you are supporting the family. So again, congratulations, all the best, and very proud of you.
Thank you, Kanta.
Thank you very much, Kanta.
All right, thank you so much, Kanta, and thank you everyone who's joined us. I hope you had an inspiring session, an educating session as well. And on behalf of Team Win, I'd like to wish all of you a happy Women's Day again. And we look forward to hosting many more such interesting sessions for all of you. I know there has been a question on the chat for Bhuvi, but for want of time, I'd request you to ping Bhuvi directly, and she'd be more than happy to respond to your questions. And if there's any other feedback that you have for Team Win, in terms of the kind of sessions that you'd like to see, kind of speakers that you'd want, please feel free to write to us. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day, good evening, and good night. Thank you.